Welcome to Creator Flow, making the right call presented by DCreator, powered by Howdy Analytics. This is where clarity meets psychology and every decision tells a story. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into the very heart of high-stakes choices, specifically looking through the lens of real estate. But make no mistake, this isn't just about buying or selling property. It's really about empowering you to master complex decisions, whether you're, navigating a crucial investment, managing a big client portfolio, or making a strategic move for your business.
Yeah, exactly. Our mission for you today is pretty precise. We want to equip you with the insights and the mental tools you need to make confident, really informed decisions. We'll be weaving together psychological principles, some scientific understanding, and crucially, financial clarity. Because, well, we truly believe that knowledge becomes most valuable when it's not just understood, but when you actually apply it. And critical thinking, that's your indispensable compass in this world, just overflowing with information.
Okay, so let's jump right into maybe the most common challenge in any high-stakes situation. Conquering decision overload and those sneaky biases that tag along. In fields like real estate, choices just come at you fast and furious. You're bombarded with options, data, opinions. It feels like your brain's trying to process a fire hose of information.
And that's precisely when decision fatigue sets in. You can imagine your cognitive resources like a battery, right? Every choice you make, big or small, drains a little bit of that power. So prolonged decision-making, it leads to mental exhaustion. And what research consistently shows is a deterioration in the quality of your choices. You start settling for good enough, maybe you overlook crucial details, or you just choose the easiest path. This often goes hand in hand with cognitive overload, which is, well, literally your brain trying to process more info than it can handle efficiently. Think about sorting through dozens of listings, analyzing market reports, juggling client needs, and managing all that emotional pressure at once. The result? Burnout, definitely. And it creates fertile ground for biases to creep in, often totally unnoticed.
Oh, I've certainly seen that play out. You might have a realtor, say, juggling multiple really demanding clients. One needs a lightning-fast viewing on some hot new listing, another is agonizing over every single contingency in an offer. That constant mental switching, that pressure, it often leads to hurried decisions, or even biased ones. And it also feeds into this common belief we have, the myth of certainty. We convince ourselves that if we just gather more information, we'll magically make the perfect choice. But honestly, often it just creates more doubt. It leads straight to analysis paralysis.
Right. And this is where biases like anchoring bias become really powerful. This is when your brain relies way too heavily on the very first piece of information it gets. So let's say a property is listed at $350,000. Your immediate thought just anchors to that number.
Yeah.
Even if market comps clearly show the fair value is closer to, say, $300,000, that initial $350K can make $325K feel like a bargain. Buyers often end up overpaying because that initial high price has, quite literally, anchored their expectations. It's a mental shortcut, but one that can be incredibly costly.
Okay, so if this is how our brains are wired, what does this actually mean for you, the listener? How can you push back against these biases? How do you stop decision fatigue from messing with your judgment? I mean, beyond just knowing about it, what's an actual step someone can take?
Well, a really powerful technique is to actively disrupt that anchor. Don't just accept the listing price. Immediately go seek out independent valuations, look at comparable sales data. Think of it like hitting a mental reset button. You're actively creating a new, more objective anchor for yourself. Another thing to watch for is the decoy effect. Sometimes you might be shown a slightly inferior, maybe overpriced option first, just to make the second option, which might still be pricey but looks better in comparison, seem like a fantastic deal. To counter that, always force yourself to compare an option, not just to what's presented to you, but to your own predefined ideal or a truly independent market value.
Right, right. We saw this play out really clearly in a situation involving someone we'll call Alex. He was just 20 years old, facing huge family pressure to buy a $300,000 home in Texas for his grandparents. He felt totally swamped. The emotional weight, all the financial jargon being thrown around, and this idea that it was a sure thing investment that couldn't possibly go wrong. He was deep in decision fatigue and anchoring.
But Alex did something crucial. He paused. He actually stopped. Instead of just rushing forward because of the pressure, he started journaling, meticulously listing the pros and cons. Then, he consciously sought out a neutral third party, a realtor, to discuss the contingencies, the potential impact on his credit. Basically, actively looking for the downsides and the safeguards. That deliberate pause, getting that external validation, allowed him to negotiate specific protective clauses into the deal. He effectively de-risked what was a highly emotional decision. He didn't just know about biases, he took action to counter them.
Yeah, it's so clear that successful creators, founders, leaders, they don't just feel their way through big decisions, they actually implement systems. We've seen really successful agents using prioritization techniques like simple decision trees. Okay, is this a must have or is it a nice to have? They also build routines. Could be something as simple as a 10-minute clarity ritual each morning, just reviewing their highest stakes decisions, trying to spot potential biases before the day gets chaotic, and, critically important, they delegate. They offload administrative tasks, sharing that cognitive load to free up their own mental energy for the big strategic thinking.
Exactly. So for you listening, we really recommend practical tools. You can start with a reflection journal. Just take 10 minutes each day. Note one key decision you made. And try to identify any biases you noticed in your own thinking. Like, was your choice influenced by the first offer you saw? Or maybe just by how tired you were? This builds that crucial self-awareness. You could even try a simple bias audit worksheet, just a checklist. Did I get other perspectives? Did I challenge my first impression? Did I consider the opposite outcome might happen? And maybe a simplification checklist to help break down those really complex problems into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Yeah, I think the core insight here is pretty powerful. Certainty is a myth. The world's just too complex for perfect information. So instead of chasing it, maybe embrace informed intuition. Combine your gut feelings with actual data and these proven techniques to get better outcomes. Okay, so once you've got a better handle on decision overload, the next big hurdle seems to be timing. In real estate, like in so many high stakes situations, timing can make or break a deal, right? It can turn a good opportunity great or a promising one into a costly mistake. And it's not just about the market clock, it's about your brain's timing too.
Absolutely. Our brains are incredibly reactive to urgency. It often happens through, like, a cascade of chemical signals. When you're in one of those now or never moments, adrenaline surges. It heightens your alertness, sure, but it often narrows your focus too much. At the same time, dopamine gives you that little reward buzz for quick wins, pushing you to act fast. But this can easily lead to rushed, impulsive judgments. And then there's cortisol, the stress hormone. It kicks in during high-pressure situations, creating this false sense of urgency. It actually impairs your prefrontal cortex. It's the part of your brain doing the long-term thinking, making you prioritize immediate gratification over patient strategic analysis. The counterbalance, that's serotonin. When your serotonin levels are balanced, it promotes patience, a calmer, more analytical state that lets you evaluate complex situations better.
And okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. These external pressures just amplify those internal chemical reactions, don't they? Like social influence, all the market hype you hear, or that infamous herd mentality. During peak real estate seasons, for instance, that fear of missing out, FOMO, it doesn't just feel like a worry. It literally activates your brain's amygdala, the emotional center. This just heightens your emotional responses and can push you to act impulsively, maybe against your better judgment.
But the good news is you can counter this. Specific mindfulness techniques, things like focused breathing or even just a quick body scan, can actively help regulate these chemical responses. By taking a deliberate pause, even a short one, you lower cortisol, you let the adrenaline dissipate, and you give your serotonin a chance to promote a more balanced logical assessment before you hit send on that offer. It's really about creating space for logic to override that fleeting sense of urgency.
And this internal chemistry stuff also plays into external factors, like seasonal influences, right? You ever notice how your mood feels different in winter? Shorter daylight can lower those mood regulating hormones, often leads to more cautious buying behavior. Then spring hits, longer days, more sunshine. It boosts optimism, activity, and it mirrors the market data perfectly. Sales consistently spike in spring and summer.
Exactly. So for sellers, listing in spring or early summer clearly capitalizes on that peak buyer enthusiasm.
I know.
No question.
Yeah.
For buyers, though, winter often offers significant negotiation leverage. There's just lower competition, less emotional pressure overall. But, and this is a crucial warning, rushing a winter purchase can be a real pitfall. A quick decision might mean you overlook weather-related issues, things like hidden water damage, maybe poor drainage you can't see, or even a compromised roof hidden by snow. Taking that deliberate pause, even in winter, can literally save you thousands.
And all of this really ties back to the role of pressure, doesn't it? That now or never feeling that triggers our basic fight or flight response.
Precisely. And the key strategy for managing this pressure is to set your decision deadlines based on data and reason, not just raw emotion. Research actually shows that integrating deliberate pauses, even just 10 or 15 minutes, can reduce error rates by as much as 20% in these high-pressure scenarios. It's about taking control back from that chemical trigger and giving your rational brain a chance to weigh in.
Okay, let's look at Sarah's teaser case. She was a first-time buyer, super excited about what seemed like an ideal home at a reduced price. The seller, maybe a bit too casually, mentioned a new electrical box that still needed a meter connection. Now, for many people, that dopamine rush from finding a deal, combined with the urgency of that reduced price, they would just rush to close.
Oh, for sure. Her brain chemistry, that initial dopamine hit, definitely kicked in, created that urgency, grab this deal. But Sarah, maybe consciously, maybe unconsciously, applied the science of timing. She paused. Despite all the excitement, she insisted on getting a professional inspection of that electrical work. That pause revealed the fix was actually a minor $1,500 issue, not some huge electrical overhaul. That deliberate, science-backed delay saved her potentially thousands in hidden repairs, not to mention future regret. It's a perfect example of how a small pause can lead to a massive win.
Okay, so for you listening, some quick actionable tips here. First, maybe track your personal energy cycles. When are you most alert, most analytical? Try scheduling big decisions during those peak times. Second, always use daily tools for market timing. Don't just rely on gut feel. And third, try incorporating short, intentional breaks, maybe even quick meditations, into your day, especially before high-stakes calls or meetings. It helps regulate those hormones and really improves clarity.
Yeah, and a really powerful exercise is to keep a timing journal. Just for a week, log your daily decisions, big and small, and note any chemical influences you perceived. Were you tired? Stressed? Did you feel that rush of excitement? This really helps you recognize your own patterns. The core insight here: science empowers you to time your actions precisely, and that leads to more regret-free success in real estate and honestly probably beyond.
Okay, moving on from timing. Let's dive into another really crucial balancing act: weighing those powerful emotional pulls against smart financial strategies. Because saying yes in real estate, it often carries way more than just financial weight, right? It can create what you called emotional debt, a kind of hidden cost that really weighs on your stability, your well-being.
That's exactly right. Emotional debt is that psychological burden you take on from decisions driven by obligation or guilt, or maybe even misplaced empathy, often at the expense of your own financial health. And this stands in really stark contrast to financial leverage, which is the calculated, wise use of resources to amplify your gains. Studies consistently show that these emotional decisions account for up to 40% of all regretted financial choices. That figure alone should tell you how vital finding this balance is.
Wow, 40%. That's huge. And the hidden costs of an emotionally driven yes, they aren't just monetary, are they? It's stress, resentment, maybe significant opportunity loss later on. We see this a lot in family deals, where those strong emotional pulls, like feeling you have to help relatives, can completely blind you to major pitfalls. This is where altruism bias comes in, right? You overestimate the benefit to others while dangerously underestimating the potential harm or risk to yourself. And high-stakes deals just amplify this effect, making it even harder to see clearly.
So to balance these emotional risks effectively, the very first step is critical self-awareness. You've got to identify your personal emotional triggers. Is it guilt from family expectations? Maybe a deep fear of conflict? Once you know what they are, then you can set clear boundaries. This might mean having predefined objective criteria for when and how you'll get involved in a deal. It's all about ensuring your generosity doesn't accidentally compromise your own stability or your long-term financial health.
Okay, and then on the other side of that coin is financial leverage, using borrowed resources, mortgages, business loans to magnify potential returns. It's obviously a powerful tool, but it absolutely requires a solid foundation of stability to avoid some really severe pitfalls. High leverage can amplify gains massively in a rising market, sure, but it equally magnifies losses when the market turns. It's definitely a double-edged sword.
Right. So think of emotional debt as reactive. It's a burden you take on, often without full calculation. Financial leverage, ideally, is proactive and calculated. Effective strategies for using leverage involve thorough, data-driven risk assessments, like meticulously calculating your debt-to-income ratios before you commit. In complex family or business scenarios, leverage can actually be used positively if it's structured with clear protections. Things like legally binding cosigner agreements or really detailed exit clauses. It's about making leverage a protective tool for everyone, not just a risky gamble.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, behavioral studies consistently emphasize the power of diversification. And that's not just about financial assets, is it? It's also about spreading your emotional and financial investments to maintain that overall balance and long-term well-being.
We saw this so vividly in Jordan's case. Remember Jordan, the 20-year-old facing immense family pressure to buy that $300,000 home for his grandparents. The plan was for Jordan's excellent credit to secure lower mortgage rates for them. They'd put 10% down, get a 30-year term, and the stated intention was to refinance and transfer the title in just a year. On the surface, it looked like, a generous gesture, a smart use of his good credit.
Yeah, but that emotional debt immediately surfaced for Jordan, didn't it? His deep guilt about his family's needs was clashing hard with his fears about damaging his credit and really limiting his own future ability to buy property. And as he started assessing the actual mortgage risks, more pitfalls just popped up. Like, what if the refinancing failed? Maybe due to market changes, or if his credit situation changed. Jordan would be legally on the hook for that loan long term. Plus, there were significant refinance issues, fees, potential rate hikes, complex tax implications on the title transfer. It was basically a minefield.
Exactly. But this is where Jordan's approach was, frankly, a masterclass in balancing. He didn't just say no. Instead, he consulted independent experts. He asked about contingencies, potential exit clauses. He ran detailed credit simulations to truly understand the long-term impact on his financial future. And based on that, he negotiated specific safeguards. Things like legal agreements that clearly limited his exposure if that refinance didn't happen as planned. He managed to transform what could have been a crushing emotional and financial debt into a protected leverage point. It showed that a well-assessed yes prevents regret and really emphasizes stability over just impulse.
Okay, so for you listening, here's a clear framework to help balance generosity with your own stability. First, quantify the risks. Use leverage calculators, run those what-if scenarios, get concrete numbers. Second, set emotional boundaries. Define your absolute non-negotiables. Maybe it's a specific personal credit score threshold you won't dip below, or a debt-to-income ratio you won't exceed for someone else. And third, seek neutral advice. Always involve financial advisors or legal experts who aren't emotionally invested. They provide that crucial objective counterbalance to your own potential biases.
Yeah, and as a practical exercise, maybe conduct an emotional debt audit. List your recent yes decisions that felt emotionally driven. Then, try to score their true cost on your well-being, your energy levels, your long-term financial stability. The profound insight here, true generosity really stems from a place of stability. You need to ensure your decisions enhance rather than erode your own foundation.
All right, next up, let's equip you with some proven psychological tools to spot those genuine deals and, just as importantly, avoid the dangerous pitfalls. Because not every real estate opportunity is quite what it seems, is it? It takes a sharp eye and the right mental framework.
Definitely. We talk about green flags, those positive signs like, truly motivated sellers, properties that are genuinely undervalued, or clear growth potential in an area. And then, of course, there are the red flags, those subtle warnings of hidden issues, maybe surprise fees popping up, undisclosed repairs needed, or critical property liens. What's fascinating is that research suggests your gut feeling, when it's properly calibrated with objective tools, can actually improve your deal spotting accuracy by up to 30%. It's about honing that intuition, not just ignoring it.
Okay, so how do we use these powerful psychological tools for evaluating deals? What are they?
Well, one key is pattern recognition. Your brain is constantly trying to make sense of information, right? So you can train it to spot anomalies. For example, a sudden big price drop could be green flag, maybe signaling a highly motivated seller. Or it could be a red flag, indicating some deeper structural issue the seller wants to unload quickly. You have to look for patterns in both directions. Then there are things like heuristic checklists, basically mental shortcuts that guide your initial assessment. And understanding concepts like prospect theory helps us weigh potential gains against potential losses more rationally.
Can you elaborate a bit on prospect theory? How does that apply here?
Sure. Prospect theory, in simple terms, is the idea that humans feel the pain of a loss much more intensely than the pleasure of an equivalent gain. About twice as much, studies suggest. This bias can make us act irrationally. We might take on unnecessary risk just to avoid even a small, certain loss. Or conversely, we might be overly cautious about securing a moderate gain. In real estate, this might mean a seller holds onto a property for way too long, refusing to drop the price even slightly because that loss of value feels too painful, even if accepting a slightly lower price would mean a quicker sale and prevent further potential losses. Understanding this helps you predict behavior, both your own and the other parties.
That makes a lot of sense. So how do you, listening, spot a red flag and maybe even better, turn it into an actual opportunity?
The key is to view inconsistencies not just as deal breakers, but as signals that require more investigation. A surprise closing cost, for example, isn't automatically a reason to walk away. It can be reframed as powerful negotiation leverage. Maybe you push for credits or other concessions. Strategies include active questioning. Don't just accept surface-level answers. Probe for details on those fees or issues. Use what psychologists call cognitive dissonance if someone gives you a vague or inconsistent answer. That discomfort should prompt you to dig deeper. Proactive gut checks, literally pausing and asking yourself, does something feel off here? Combined with objective verification, have been shown to reduce post-purchase regrets by identifying up to 70% more risks upfront.
Okay, this brings us right to the role of intuition and gut checks. How much should you actually trust your gut when it comes to a big deal?
Intuition is incredibly powerful. It's linked to your brain's rapid subconscious processing. It draws on patterns and experiences much faster than your conscious analysis ever could, and often it is more accurate than overanalyzing something. However, unchecked intuition can lead straight back to those biases we talked about earlier. So the key is balance. Use tools like journaling your past hunches. How accurate were they? This helps calibrate your intuition over time. In high-stakes deals, combine that initial gut feeling with solid, verifiable data. If something feels off, pause, then cross-reference it with market data, professional inspections, or expert opinions. This hybrid approach transforms those vague feelings into strategic, actionable insights.
Yeah, we saw this perfect blend in the Mia and Alex case study. Remember them? This couple was absolutely thrilled about their dream home purchase. Everything seemed perfect. Until the night before closing, suddenly the seller demanded an extra $5,000 cash. And then later inspections revealed bats in the attic and some outdated electrical work. Just a nightmare scenario for most buyers.
Oh, the emotional pressure must have been immense. That dream home was right there, within reach, but now suddenly there are these unexpected demands and problems. But me and Alex, because they were trained in psychological self-awareness, used their gut checks. That sudden $5,000 demand immediately flagged as unusual, really suspicious. It prompted them to calmly review the contract. They quickly confirmed there was absolutely no clause obligating them to pay that extra cash. Simultaneously, their trained eyes spotted the green flags. The home's underlying potential was still there, despite these issues. So they leveraged the needed repairs as powerful bargaining chips. They countered not by giving in, but by demanding pest control services and significant electrical credits from the seller. They didn't just avoid paying the extra $5,000, they actually turned the situation around, got seller concessions, saved money, and uncovered additional value. That's negotiation from strength.
Okay, so for you listening, here are some actionable strategies to negotiate wisely using psychological insights. First, meticulous preparation, non-negotiable. Know your numbers, know your limits, know your alternatives before you even start talking. Second, use anchoring yourself when appropriate. Set your terms first to influence the other party's perception of value. Third, employ the reciprocity principle. Be willing to offer small, well-considered compromises to encourage larger, more significant concessions from the other side. Fourth, and this might be the most crucial, if something feels off even slightly, delay the decision. Don't be rushed. Gather more information. And finally, when you spot those red flags, demand transparency and actively look for ways to turn them into opportunities by requesting offsets, credits, or a straightforward renegotiation of terms.
Yeah, and a highly effective exercise is negotiation role play. Seriously, simulate various scenarios with a trusted friend or colleague. Practice asking those tough questions. Practice setting boundaries. Practice countering unexpected demands. It builds confidence and skill. The core insight here, applying these psychological tools empowers you to negotiate from a position of real strength, effectively converting potential risks into significant wins.
And finally, the cornerstone of confident, strategic decision-making in any high-stakes field, financial literacy. We need to weave this into what we call the clarity loop. This is really your ultimate safeguard against uncertainty.
Exactly. The clarity loop isn't just a concept. It's a dynamic, cyclical process. It seamlessly integrates essential knowledge, things like understanding mortgages or the details of inspections to foster ongoing confidence. Think of it like a continuous feedback system. You learn new information, you apply it in real-world situations, you reflect on the outcomes, what worked, what didn't, and then you repeat the cycle. This structured approach to knowledge acquisition actively reduces cognitive dissonance, that internal stress you feel when your beliefs clash with new information or reality. It ensures you approach every deal with agency, not fear.
Okay, so let's talk about the essential knowledge on mortgages that forms, like a foundational building block for this clarity. We're talking about truly understanding the different types, right? Fixed versus adjustable rates and what they mean over 15 versus 30 years. You need to know all the associated costs, not just the interest rate. Things like points, private mortgage insurance, PMI, closing fees, and critically, you need to calculate true affordability for your specific situation. Use formulas like debt-to-income ratios. Don't just rely on what some lender pre-approves you for. That's their number, not necessarily yours.
Precisely. And then the role of inspections in the clarity loop cannot be overstated. Inspections are your primary tool for uncovering those hidden issues, structural problems, pests, HVAC, plumbing, electrical. The loop integrates this by feeding the inspection results right back into your financial planning. Did the inspection reveal a major repair needed? Okay, that's not necessarily a deal breaker, it's an input. You use that information to maybe adjust your mortgage terms or negotiate credits from the seller or even renegotiate the purchase price itself. Our natural optimism bias makes us want to downplay risks, but having a structured checklist during inspections directly counters that bias. And please, never forget the critical step of spotting leads during the title search. These are legal claims on the property that can completely derail a closing or become a massive headache after you buy if they're not identified and resolved within the loop.
Okay, this raises a really important question that I know many creators and founders face. How do you integrate these real-world curveballs, like an unexpected lien popping up or unforeseen repair costs, into empowered decisions instead of just letting them cause panic?
Elena's teaser case is a perfect illustration here. Elena was closing on a promising property, seemed like a straightforward deal. Then boom, inspections revealed a $2,000 lien from unpaid property taxes and an additional $3,000 needed for unforeseen foundation repairs. Naturally, her anxiety shot through the roof. This is the moment where many people would just panic or walk away entirely.
But Elena, because she was already familiar with the clarity loop concept, didn't do that. She methodically applied its principles. She immediately reviewed her mortgage options, understanding how she could potentially leverage seller credits to offset these new costs. Then, reflecting on the lien, she proactively looped in a thorough title search. That uncovered the lien was actually a resolvable issue. It could be handled via escrow holdbacks, meaning the seller's funds would be held until the lien was officially cleared. This knowledge informed and empowered her negotiation. Ultimately, she reduced her out-of-pocket expenses by a significant $4,000.
And for Elena, the loop continued even after the deal closed. Her post-deal reflection, documenting what she learned, how she applied the loop, actively built her confidence for future investments. It transformed what could have been paralyzing anxiety into genuine agency. It's powerful stuff. So for you, listening, to build your own ongoing clarity loop, learn the financial fundamentals constantly, use mortgage calculators, read market reports, stay informed, apply these learnings in every single deal. Budget for multiple types of inspections, always do title searches. Reflect by journaling the outcomes. What worked, what didn't, what would you do differently? And then repeat this cycle. Continuously refine your approach with each experience.
And maybe some practical tools to help with that success.
Definitely. Maintain a financial clarity journal. Track specific mortgage details, inspection findings, negotiation outcomes for every deal. It builds your personal database. And integrate anxiety reduction techniques. Simple things like focused breathing or short meditations, especially when you're reflecting on challenging decisions. This helps you process information calmly and really reinforces the learning. The core insight here is that the clarity loop fosters lifelong confidence. It ensures your financial literacy actually evolves with each experience, truly empowering you to navigate the inherent uncertainties of real estate and, honestly, any other high-stakes decision you face.
Wow, what an incredible deep dive we've just completed. You've really moved us from understanding how to conquer decision fatigue and that feeling of overwhelm all the way to embracing strategic confidence. We've explored how to blend your intuition with hard data, how to balance your heart and your wallet, and crucially, how to see challenges not as roadblocks, but as opportunities to transform into genuine wins.
Yeah, mastering decisions really is a journey, isn't it? It's not some static destination you arrive at. So now that you've applied these powerful principles to the world of real estate, maybe consider this. How will you use the clarity loop to approach the next big decision in your life? Perhaps something totally beyond property. What new insights and confidence might it uncover for you then?
Thanks for listening to Creator Flow, Making the Right Call. This episode comes to you from D Creator, powered by Howdy Analytics. Stay clear, stay intentional. Until next time.